Wonderful. So I am truly honored to be here with all of you today, and heartfelt gratitude to the outstanding team at Novatore, to all of you for your esteemed work and unyielding compassion. I want to talk today about transformation, about voice, about compassion, about connection, within the framework of the feminist nonprofit organization Footage Foundation, of which I am a co-founder and executive director. I co-founded Footage 14 years ago with 4 other women social scientists while studying for our PhDs at Cambridge. At Footage, we design and implement evidence-based programs focusing on well-being and compassion in the areas of inequalities, gender-based violence, and forced displacement. We are unique in that we occupy the fertile space between social science research and on-the-ground humanitarian interventions. We work with some of the world's most forgotten young women, including young women who have survived conflict in Syria, torture by ISIS, fleeing Afghanistan, horrors in camps in Libya, trafficking in Kazakhstan, being part of the LGBTQI+ in community in Russia, and intimate partner violence in the US, Ukraine, Russia, and Chile. I myself have worked as a social scientist for close to 20 years, helping to elevate the voices of the most silenced. Also promoting the power of compassion, which I understand is empathy plus action. And while I am an applied social scientist, I am, above all, a feminist researcher. So in fact, I co-founded Footage as a student when I saw firsthand how the social science methods I was using, such as anthropological film and oral histories, went far beyond generating data. Indeed, as people spoke with me, as they created, for example, images and stories, I saw how feminist principles of voice, of radical inclusion, of compassion, and collaboration inspired real, tangible social action. This work is my calling, and this work is how Footage was born. And we are, without question, a feminist organization. So what does that mean when people talk about a feminist research or feminist organization? It means that our methods are participatory, that they break down hierarchies between researchers and those we serve, that they embody the phrase, "nothing about us without us," that our focus is on generating data rich in lived experience to catalyze change from the ground up. Our focus is on the most forgotten, on justice and on equity. It means that there's no research for research's sake, and that research that we co-create must bring about change and healing. I want to share with you a little bit more about Footage. Footage is research and it is programming. It is understanding and it is action. There's no separating what we do into research, action, aid, or intervention. Rather, our every move is towards positive transformation. Now I want to share with you how these principles constitute our work using the case study of our programs. I forgot about that slide. Using the case study of our programs in Ukraine. We're profoundly connected to what is happening in Ukraine. Over the last 10 years in particular, 8 of 9 of our US Public Diplomacy Awards from the US Department of State have been implemented across the region. All the while, we have focused on gender equality and on ending gender-based violence. Through these awards, we have established and maintained deep roots in vulnerable communities in Ukraine. 2 projects we're currently implementing include cash transfers and sharing vital information exemplifying feminist principles. In Ukraine, on February 24th, we began providing unconditional cash transfers through our program called Compassionate Cash. We know that unconditional cash protects against risks like trafficking, but that it's also a trauma-informed form of care, and that it instills power and agency and supports the mental and physical health of people, something desperately and immediately needed in crisis settings. Our focus is on one soul at a time, humanizing the process. In fact, one young woman from Ukraine told me, "Our concern is like that of an older sister. No situation is too big or too small. No time is wasted and no one is left behind." And I want to stress here that there are very few that are able to get cash to the populations we serve, because these populations are unlikely to be involved in formal aid networks. For example, elderly women with a roaming distance of maybe several meters a day, or women in villages stuck at home with sick and/or disabled children that cannot access aid networks that are more formally structured. So how do we do this? We do this through the power of building and maintaining women's networks and leadership. Indeed, we can do what others cannot because our cash program is different in that it is feminist, that it is at once research and a leadership intervention. It is a participatory form of aid. Our mechanism that we deliver is unique in that we employ young women who are part of our public diplomacy work in 2017 inside Ukraine. Because we use these trusted networks, we're able to deliver aid to the hardest to reach, promoting inclusion as well as security, safety, and dignity. And we know that these aspects are the first steps towards mental well-being, and we know that mental well-being is directly connected to economic empowerment and vice versa. What is more, promoting leadership skills among women and providing opportunities to lead is so important because the skills that these young women learn will serve them long after emergency cash cannot. We work closely with our young women leaders inside Ukraine as they make decisions on where aid needs to go and how we can get it there. Young women lead the research, they document the process, including, for example, recording interviews, recipients' lived experiences with violence, and they gather stories, quotes, and images and personal narratives, many you'll see up here. What is more, young women are agents of change, and life has purpose and meaning for them as they support their own communities. As one young leader wrote to me, "It gives my life a sense of purpose." She added, "For me, being a leader on the Compassionate Cash program is an opportunity to survive innately. When I help another woman, I save myself." The second program I want to talk about is called FemSMS. When we launched with partners in April, FemSMS has now become a thriving program. It is a one-way, trauma-informed, compassionate text messaging service that shares information and resources such as hotlines, articles, websites with women, equipping them with trusted information and offering hope and social connection. We built FemSMS to address information poverty in crisis settings by sharing information on subjects like gender-based violence and mental health. We chose SMS because regardless of the phones that women have, regardless of the type of mobile they're using, and even if the internet is cut off, you can be sure that the messages will get to them. FemSMS has three central feminist principles. First, it is trauma-informed. It takes into account people's immediate trauma. Messages allow the recipients to receive information in a constructive way, not usually seen in a war zone. Many of the texts themselves are often delivered with trigger warnings. Again, something you don't see in a war zone and or with any FemSMS or any SMS, but with ours. So as not to isolate and ignite fear for the recipient. Connected to this second, all of our messages are set within a yoke of connection and compassion. So rather than simply giving information on voice, we enter into conversation. We take into account the shame of violence and how difficult these subjects are to speak about for all of us. Using compassion and connection texts about violence, trafficking, mental health, including information on how war impacts everyday life from menstruation to sleep patterns to food to water safety, are most likely to be heard and absorbed by those who need the information most. Lastly, the third aspect is voice. Significantly, FemSMS is built through an iterative, human-centered design process with recipients themselves. By designing texts based on the needs, sending them across the country, modifying the text based on phone and online surveys, Ukrainian women's voices sit at the heart of this work. So far, we've completed 3 research intervention trials, and a 4th is in progress. We've sent over 6,000 messages to close to 1,000 women across the country. And from what I know so far, this is the first time in a war zone that an iterative design process has been used to build an information sharing system. And further, this is the first compassion-based, trauma-informed system of its kind. The magnitude of this cannot be overstated. Having women participate in research generates important data and is in itself an intervention. Again, there is no research for research's sake. Women not only receive life-saving messages, they know that they volunteered to take part in the rebuilding of their own country. In fact, data suggests that a staggering 75% of women who have received messages have relayed them to other women across the country. We have an abundance of data coming from surveys. We have quotes, as you see here. I realize I'm not alone. I felt supported. There's a sense of unity. We have others, such as, these texts allowed me to remember myself in moments of silence about my need to regain my strength. FemSMS is expanding across the region and starting last month across sites globally, including in the US and Afghanistan. The need is inexhaustible and the demand is high. For example, we have women every single day signing up for FemSMS in Ukraine. We resolved to bring this service everywhere it is needed. In fact, in this challenging landscape, with the escalation of global violence, with deepening inequities, with information poverty, and with the silencing of so many, as a feminist organization, our resolve to leave no one behind, to center the narratives of those we seek to serve, to move our world toward justice, towards peace, and towards equity, grows stronger and stronger. I'm truly indebted to all of you for all you do with and for women and for everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. I'm deeply grateful.